algorithm in the sky. Is that what you said?
You are our Midwest, you Weird Al Yankovic. Every time you come up with some fucking lyrics, I'm like, this is goddamn priceless.
You want me to do a
Yeah, yeah. It's about this time that you can feature an audio sampling from our only bearded boy. So I'm not gonna lie, I do think that the background is perfect, especially for tonight's episode in particular.
I'll change it. Don't worry if you want.
Are you kidding me? Fuck no, leave it.
Okay. All
I
right.
love it. No, I'm like, you can. This is the. So, just to clarify, set the stage right. Was the dollar bill designed by Freemasons? I don't know this question. Was
No,
was the
not at
back
all.
of the dollar like there's
No.
no conspircy behind the dollar. This is not the
Oh,
Novus
there's
Ordos.
plenty of conspiracy, but there's no truth to them.
There's no legitimacy in
No,
it, at least that we can prove.
no.
because Ben Franklin
Even the,
wanted something else.
yeah, and even the whole like all-seeing eye on top of the pyramid was completely taken from more of the Egyptian stereotypical God sees all mentality. Nothing to do with the fraternity whatsoever.
Osiris.
So America is founded on some very interesting themes. So one with the particular love of Greco-Roman architecture in the capital, the influence of certain romantic writings and previous, like honestly, Rome. Like Rome and England. I'm not saying we're a bunch of copycats, but we're just like we're the eclectic Christian country.
Well, I mean, think about it. We came from Enlightenment era thinking, both the fraternity and a lot of the great minds of the time had very Enlightenment views. And a lot of that came from, Plato's Republic, esoteric background, things like that. So, of course, they're going to see things like the all-seeing eye or symbolism like the eagle, for instance. Originally, the arrows and the olive branch were switched in the claws of the eagle when the Department of Defense was made, because it was the arrows were in the right claw and the olive branch in the left, which symbolizes normally your right hand is stronger. So why do you want your right hand to have all the arms?
This is interesting. This is interesting. So symbolically, I would ask a question. Is the purpose of the symbol to declare a truth or to create a change? Because in magic, these are two really important purposes behind why you would use a symbol or a sigil or something like that. So what does the symbol represent? Is it intended to be this is who we are, or this is what we are becoming?
We can offer you peace, or we can fuck your shit up.
And that's pretty much
Work.
where it came from. It came from that very militaristic mindset of we come in peace but don't fuck with us, sleeping dragon, all those metaphors that have gone on throughout the years for America. Just unfortunately gets bent to hell when you get the alt-right individuals on the case.
Alt-right. This is the third time I've heard this word today. Rizzy boy, define that for me. I need a
Hold on,
modern
let me turn my
dictionary
lights
of
on.
alt-right.
Extreme right.
All right, so the alt-right, at least when you're dealing with social media, is right, meaning right-wing policies, conservative, Republican policies regarding the United States government and even abroad. Typically, right-wing is authoritarian to the most extreme dictatorship style government. So alt-right is that extreme dictatorship. In America, it has become very Christo-fascist, as we can see in many of our comments and through many of the policies that are going through the court systems right now. And it is the exact opposite to being progressive. Now, in my mind, being progressive to be progressive, being progressive for progressive's sake, for progress's sake, is wrong. But that should not stop you from having the idea in your head that we need to keep moving forward. We should never stop moving forward, but there are times where tradition definitely has its benefits.
Because that's where I have a question for the idea or the ideal Freemason as they're represented. Do you think you can be the ideal Freemason and adhere to alt-right political views? We separate discussion and topics of it, but can you adhere to that and still be a progressive? There's a lot of head shaking.
You are 1000% renegotiating what you learn in Freemasonry to fit your alt-right ideas. You if you just look at paper to paper what alt-right authoritarian dictatorship style government is and stands for, it goes against everything Freemasonry is.
There's no
Okay.
room for tolerance.
Exactly. It's complete intolerance. It is the othering of people.
So I'm gonna extend this, not furthering into a devil's advocate, but to ask that question. There are times often in life where we see bad shit happen and people let it go by. Certain mustached men, guards were allowed to do these things by individuals that did not stop it or stand in the way of it. So when we look within the craft, when we look within any body where you have alt-right or extremist individuals, where does the responsibility lie for engagement with them? Or because if you say you can't be one and be a progressive space, well, what's their purpose? Why are they there? How do we handle them? What's the path to reconciliation for believing something and discovering the truth about it?
So I think that goes back to my harping on the closing charge so much, on the remind an erring brother of his failings, aid in his reformation, vindicate his character when introduced, and suggest on his behalf the most charitable judgment. It starts there. You know, if you see a brother, whomever that brother may be, erring, to say it a nice way, you would go and you'd recommend, hey man, you know, there's some problematic behavior, or um, you know, the way of thinking. There's more facts that deny what the way that you're handling this. Um, I mean, to be completely honest, look at what happened between me and Miho. You know, he came across the one that sent me over the edge was the Balenciaga conspiracy. That was blatantly conspiratorial.
Mike.
It was anti-Semitic, xenophobic, and no matter how many times myself or other Masons tried to correct him, he just dug himself in deeper with it. No, sorry. I'm the only way to correct that now would be like Grand Lodge action, you know, something along those lines. Disavowing him as a brother, which I have done, as you can see on TikTok. I've disavowed a couple. There's another one. There's another two brothers that you guys may have seen in the villains chat that we talk about. Ray Phelps, that I will 1000% disavow because
And
of
Trey Mormon.
yeah, and Trey.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
those two that go off on their you know, Confederacy nonsense. Yeah. And I know Brother Bailey's laughing down there because he's had interactions back earlier, maybe a year and a half ago.
Oh yes, I
with
saw it all.
brothers
It was great.
regarding gun rights and whatnot.
oh,
And
fuck me. Yeah, I remember that conversation. Let's
like,
let's let's formally start this. So that way we can roll into this because I think as introducing his history fits perfectly.
Sorry, I had to play some New Zealand music.
How are you, brothers?
Good.
That's good to
Welcome,
hear,
Brother
good to hear.
Bailey.
You'll have to forgive the backdrop. The family has been struck by the sickness, so they're vomiting out of both ends. So I've been sent on the maid the maid runs, as you know, so to speak, cleaning the linens and getting supplies. So hence why my backdrop is in my car. But
Hey,
all that aside, I'm glad to talk to you fellas. It's been a while. It's been a while.
fucking
And
hey.
thank you for the invite. Very excited.
We're glad you took the time to join us, and never a fret for fucking nothing. Usually I'm held up in some other tiny house-esque position, so never fret. It's the conversation.
It is indeed.
Speaking of conversations, Blair, I believe you have some dialogue.
You have a duty you must attend
Oh,
to.
right. So, the thoughts and opinions of the participants are our thoughts and opinions only and do not reflect any Grand Lodge statements, edicts, opinions, whatever.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, viewers, doodlers and diddlers, these are our words. Thank you for joining 357 Radio tonight. We are joined by some smexy, sexy sounding and looking individuals. Brother Bailey, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to always get together and have a yarn with you guys. It really is. And I always find it a bit humorous that we have to make those disclaimers before we have these discussions. But it's a necessary disclaimer to make. Otherwise, least your words be held against you, further
I
down
hate
the track.
wrapping it up, but it certainly results in less tamariki running around.
Yeah.
We could get in so much trouble for the shit we've said on here.
Oh,
So much.
easily kicked out. Easily.
My secretary messaged me and he's like, oh, hey, I was listed, a little birdie told me blank and sent me one of our links. And I was like, oh, shit. And then he's like,
Yeah.
but fortunately for you, I agree with you. So you're good. And I was like,
I've already been tagged by Grand Lodge once for having a Masonic podcast. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So the other Masonic podcast that I belong to, the extended branch, when we released our first episode, we were a little bit more liberal with it. All of us had a drink in our hands. None of us were dressed, exactly like how you see us presenting ourselves now.
Yeah.
And I got the tut from Grand Lodge when they found out.
Oh, wow. Okay. How long ago was this? Not too long ago.
It's only been about 2 years since I started that podcast. So yeah, like right
Jesus.
before COVID.
Yeah. So what was the gripe? Was it that you were not presenting yourself in a Masonic manner, or that you had your own fucking opinions?
Initially,
Or a bit of both?
it was completely superficial. It was because we were not presenting ourselves as positive members of the craft, because all of us had drinks in our hands. One of us was smoking, even though we were indoors. So yeah, it was completely superficial at that point. Because even that topic that we chose, I named it "Meandering Through Masonry" because it was such a broad first episode. They didn't like that title either. You don't meander through Masonry. Yes, you fuck you do. Have you
I'm
been
like,
an EA before?
excuse me?
I know. The first 2 years of my Masonic career were meandering. Thank you very much.
Fucking hell. Meandering should be the motto of Freemasons.
Oh God,
It's
it is. It
it's
really
an unspoken reality, though, isn't it? Like, they only seem to make the most noise when the truth starts to hit in all the right places. But I think it's our duty to acknowledge those truths and address them at the very least, and move on from there. But can't move on when you're trying to hide everything under the fucking carpet.
Hey, we love carpet. Hopefully it matches the rest of the house. Brother Bailey, give us a bit of your introduction for those listeners who are unaware and unfamiliar to you and your Masonic duty, service, and charges. This sexy brother's an active bastard. What you up to?
So, kia ora, everybody. My name's Michael Bailey. I am a Master Mason of the Blue Lodge here in Aotearoa as part of the Grand Lodge of New Zealand. I've been a Master Mason now for coming on 3 years. I've been in the craft for 5. I am part of 3 separate lodges. So my mother lodge being Lodge Whangamomona, number 234. The Lodge of Research of Taranaki, which is number 323, in which I will be secretary this coming term. Both ecstatic and dreading the duty, but
I hear the ball and chain dropping already.
Yeah, definitely. And I've also recently been approved as a brother in De Burgh Adams, which is an Irish constituted lodge here in Taranaki as well. And newly appointed to Masonic associations. One of them you guys will be more than aware of, the Widow's Sons, Brothers Keeper chapter number 4, which I'm having a really awesome fucking time with some of the brothers I've met on that. What a wholesome bunch, right? What a wholesome shit-kicking bunch. I love it. And also the Māori Brethren Association, which I'm also having a really good time. And promoting Māori values, but not being exclusive, exclusively Māori. You can't be exclusive within the craft and, call yourself a brother. So promoting those traditions and those ideals, but also not being exclusive about it. So, can't be in the Māori Brethrens if you're just Māori. Can't have that. So yeah, so far enjoying my career, very much so. Especially since I've been on this app. Well, just in social media in general. What an absolute privilege it is to have this sort of access. Something that our forefathers could never have. The ability to reach across oceans and continents and speak to like-minded brothers such as yourselves, and being able to engage and discuss as if we were just regular old neighbors. So yeah, that's me. Got a lot of work on my plate this year, Masonically, but looking forward to the challenges ahead.
You're a fellow masochist like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Whips and chains excite me. His are just Masonically.
There is one thing that I've said this to Brother Bailey a couple times about the adding indigenous perspectives to Masonry. For Brother Bailey, it's obviously the Maori traditions and whatnot here in America. It'd be any of the indigenous Native Americans putting their, I guess you'd say, spin on Masonry. And I'd love to see hell, I'll be honest, I'd love to see a Masonic haka.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, so what we're doing here in the Māori Brethren Association, at the moment it's just small steps, such as getting all the spelling and pronunciations of lodges that currently use Māori names within their lodges, but the pronunciation and the spelling is absolutely butchered. So we're starting off that, making that a Grand Lodge edict.
This is a Tamarika Lodge.
Yeah, Tangarakau Lodge, Tangiratko, yeah, but yeah, it's just small things like that, and we're under no illusion that this change is going to come overnight, and we're under no illusion that everyone's going to accept it. In fact, we are expecting, as you could imagine, equal parts resistance but equal parts support, and I don't have to tell you which areas and which we're getting resistance and which areas in which we're getting support. I'm wholeheartedly aware that it is most likely the same where you are, irrespective of ideals or ideas being pushed. But hey, I mean, fuck, if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it, would it? So
well said. Well said.
But yeah, we're looking forward to the progress that we've made. So our Grand Chaplain is part of the Māori Brethren Association. So having him in a Grand Lodge seat definitely makes things easier. I've kind of come to the epiphany that it's easier to let shit trickle down from the top than try and push shit uphill. So having someone up in the Grand Lodge office that is acceptive of those ideals is a good start, and at least getting things past that initial stage, because obviously a lot of the ideals
it may be a harder time to push shit uphill, but it's an easier time to be the laxative so that it falls down faster.
That is true.
Ooh,
that is true.
There's some vulgar catalytic alchemical talk there.
I mean, you
Don't
gotta
be
stay
the shit
regular.
today.
You do. You need your Masonic Metamucil.
Have some
Yeah.
fiber.
Masonic
fiber.
Metamucil. This is officially going on my apron. I'm just put that
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna have a whole education based off that. They're gonna be so fucking confused.
You're talking to the guy who did an entire presentation on memes. So don't even.
Oh fuck me. We gotta get right into it on this one. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Well,
why do I have this background?
yeah,
Why
what the
what is
fuck are we
this?
talking about tonight? Money. So we're gonna dive right into a particular topic, which was inspired by some conversation building up in our episodes and with worshipful, well, I guess not worshipful, you're certainly sexy, worshipful in time, Brother Bailey. And this is answering the question of, has money corrupted the craft? Dun dun
I
dun.
yes, I believe it has definitely steered the craft in a different direction from what it would have been prior to the boom of, after the wars. I mean, you only have to look through any roll of Grand Lodge to see that membership and lodges being established just absolutely skyrocketed after that. As a, I wouldn't say a consequence, but as a result of that, obviously more men were paying more dues, and thus capitations were coming into Grand Lodge a lot more regularly than what they were prior to that. And Grand Lodge just had this sum of money in which they could do the things that they could only once dream of, or it would have taken a much longer time for them to achieve. So much so that it's come to the point where now I feel, my personal opinion, that Grand Lodge is almost panicking at that loss of revenue as that membership is declining, or rather, I would call it normalizing from the men of that age, kind of returning to the Grand Lodge above. And I think the focus has become too much on the financial and less on the education or the quality of lessons that we can provide our men. And I mean, you only have to look around, and I'm not pointing any fingers at any particular generation of Masons or any particular individual, but you only have to look around to see that there are a lot of so-called Masons who don't even know the basic fundamentals of Freemasonry that you were taught in your 3 degrees. And I almost draw that down to the lack of quality in education. And that's because we're getting too, we've gone through an era in which we've had a lot of men in there, and the focus hasn't been on that education, which what it should be primarily education, enlightenment, all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of taken a turning point. Could we possibly blame that or attribute that to money? I think we could. Is that something that we need to worry about now, that membership is coming down? I don't believe so. In fact, I think it gives us a very unique opportunity as Masons of our era to sort of, as you say, take the bull by the horns and really start, albeit slowly, steering Masonry into what it was before, at least on a focus point. But yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
So
Well, let's throw the Rizzy
Okay.
boy.
So just again, because we all 4 of us come from different jurisdictions, and obviously Brother Bailey comes from not only different jurisdiction but different constitutions, which is still interesting in my mind to have 3 separate constitutions in one landmass. 4, excuse me, 4. I think as a consequence of so many people joining after specifically World War II, the golden age of Masonry, Grand Lodges in general got so much money that they didn't know what to do with it. So they were spending it on extravagant things. For instance, here in New Jersey, our Grand Masters, after serving their term, receive a jewel, like an actual necklace. It's the Grand Master's jewel. It's $10,000. Yeah, and they get to keep it. It's theirs. And there was a huge debate over this, starting in 2019, all throughout the COVID lockdowns. And I think there's still a bit of a murmurs going on here and there on whether or not they should be returned after the brother passes away, whether they should even get it at all, because that is a huge expense on the Grand Lodge's part. Things like that. The Grand Master also gets a quote unquote shuttle service to various lodges whenever there's some kind of meeting or anything that he has to go to, that the Grand Lodge pays for. If it's a local lodge, he's getting a driver and he's being driven around in a Mercedes. or if it's the Conference of Grandmasters, which we have yearly here in America, the airfare and everything is paid for by the Grand Lodge for not only the Grand Master, but his deputy Grand Master and possible other members of the Grand Line. So cutting corners definitely has become a thing here, at least in my jurisdiction.
Do you feel like the cutting of corners, though, with the motivations of money? So that's that part where when I look at the what's motivating at that space. When in the craft degrees we understand them today, only being the three. I bitched about this before. You get to the end of the third, and they're like, FYI, I didn't give you everything. But wait, Batman, I thought in the previous places you said that this was the highest space, that this was what, and it is. The third degree is the highest, but it doesn't contain all of the information. You can be a master that is not well informed, nor qualified, nor capable. So money seems to have had a remarkable influence on where that information was stored and who has access to that information. Now, arguably, what is the information? That's a secret of Freemasonry to be discussed behind and in proper channels and places. But why was it put in those places? You've got different independent bodies that have raised enormous amounts of money, created massive cathedrals, buildings, shelters, services, and programs, like you said, because they received money and they have money. So do they continue to keep the secrets because it has been the vehicle by which they received funding to do other things with it? You know, if we learned all of our shit as operative builders from studying nature, there wasn't cost behind it. And originally the cost behind running an individual lodge was only based off of that lodge's costs, what it didn't need. But you get into some lodges where you have now per capita that has to be paid back to Grand Lodge that vastly just like it. How much would a lodge need to operate on if it didn't have to pay Grand Lodge per capita?
I say we throw it to Blair. He hasn't spoken yet.
Speak, bearded baby.
Oh, son of a bitch. Um, so I do kind of get the whole spending money on lavish things, especially if it's buildings, because we come from stonemasons, right? So it makes sense that you want to build up a nice large edifice. Like, look what we made. This is reflecting our history with the Stonemasons Guild. Look at these marble columns and this grandiose stuff. And like the Riz over here mentioned, the nice gold chain. Who wouldn't want that nice piece of bling bling to pass on to their kids? I mean, like, ooh, look at this shiny thing. We all like shiny things. But it does take away from money that we could be putting into education, which is the most important thing. It's better to pass down knowledge than shiny trinkets.
I can't argue with that, despite the fact that I love shiny trinkets, and every lodge has them. They're awards, memorabilia, signs, put swords, all kinds of stuff that are attributes. They are, symbols of a brother's career. But who touches them? Who knows them? Who uses them? I know I think to Brother Bailey's side of the pond, there's a big tradition in receiving aspects of your craft, tools of your craft, from brothers that were previously there. Do you, Brother Bailey, have any comment in regards to, like, how does that work? Are you given anything that came or was owned previously by other brothers, or is it all you acquire it, yours brand new?
So when it comes to our aprons, obviously we have 3 different aprons for 3 different degrees. We don't wear the same apron throughout all of our degrees here in Aotearoa.
Lucky.
So in that respect, we have new ones. Although I wouldn't, you know, if, and this is my own personal preference, but if I had a brother in which I knew, or if I had a father or a grandfather that went through the craft, I would have preferred to have worn theirs. But be that as it may, I'm only first generation, so new one for me. What we do have that we pass down is a lot of briefcases for your regalia. And we have a lot of really, nicely ones that were made like early 1900s. and just left to the lodge after brothers have died. So we give them a bit of a brush up and a clean up, and as I said, quite finely crafted, and we hand them on to our new brethren. And but we do also have gavel traditions here in Aotearoa, in which we have a symbolic gavel in which we go and visit and hand it off to another lodge, preferably outside of the district. It's easy to travel within our district. You can get to any one of our 11 lodges in about half an hour of each other. So promoting that travel to go abroad and do a gavel exchange and keep up those traditions and kind of assertively pressure them into reciprocating that visit with said gavel the next year is also always a good way to sort of prompt those communications between distant brethren and whatnot. But aside from that, nothing special. We definitely don't have any friggin' exquisite jewels for past Grand Masters. Although I do agree with Blair, wouldn't that be dope? But also agree that wouldn't that money also be better spent on better things?
I struggle with that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bit of a magpie.
How? I mean, 10
You can
grand.
find good jewelry for less than that.
Yes. Okay, I'm a magpie, but I'm a cheap magpie.
Right. Right.
Iris,
like
listen.
plastic, if it shines, great. That tickles my eye if it shines in the right light.
I don't collect shiny shit. I just collect shit.
Listen, you're talking to a guy who's got a shelf full of liquor and a drawer full of high-priced knives. I get it.
I respect you 2 times as much, and I've seen some of your collection. Now, before we go any further, I believe it's time for a word from our sponsor. And with that.
Oh, hi there. I'm Conspiracy Cal. Do you have self-esteem issues? Do you pull a gray hair out of your head and think, where the hell did the years go? Do you look in the mirror and think, where did all this extra padding come from? Well, Conspiracy Cal is here to help. I will teach you how to boost that ego. Here's what I want you to do. Pick yourself off of that sad, busted ass and get to the mirror right now. You're going to look in that mirror and say, I am one sexy beast. I am fantastic. I am the cream of the crop. I want you to do this every morning you crawl out of bed. And every night before you collapse into a sobbing mess and pull the duvet over your shame. For the first couple of days, you're not going to believe what you're saying. But give it a few weeks or even a few months, and it's going to sink into your head. You will be transformed from a steaming sack of hopelessness into Denzel Washington from Training Day. King Kong ain't got shit on me!
Nobody gets any opportunity. I'm not even going to spit on it for you. And I'll be honest, my favorite part of having Cal as a sponsor is the uncontrolled nature to his appearances.
The green bean one that you made recently, Blair, I sent to every one of my Masonic brothers.
Oh, good Lord.
It has been shared.
Dude, and what's great is, there will be the thing is for us right now, it's like it's just being created. But fucking next generation of yuppies coming into the craft that will be the Greys and Old Guard too, they're gonna find this shit. And it's gonna get circulated around. I mean, our memes today when they started out were pictures of people they're like, that was from 12 years ago. Like, yeah, it's still fucking funny. You'll never escape being like the obsessed girlfriend or that sand kid gif thing. Like, these are identities which will go on your tombstone.
Liana is an attractive woman, and I follow her on other social medias.
Yes, indeed.
Whoever is not surprised by that, raise your hand.
I mean, she's pretty banging. So
there's a
yeah, welcome to New Jersey. Here's our state bird.
We fly at
ours are mosquitoes.
Fucking ours are vultures. All we have is roadkill.
So I'd like to chime in to continue the discussion after our brief commercial on money in the craft. We jokingly said that all of us would enjoy having some kind of Masonic bling or regalia that was able to be passed down. I mean, I've seen the Grandmaster's jewel. From what I've seen of it, it doesn't look like $10,000 worth. of anything. It's incredibly plain, and if I saw something that was $10,000, I expect it to be a ring like what Shaq wears, like the football style kind of thing. Go ahead.
Imagine that
Bullshit
ring on a
though.
normal finger, though. Imagine that ring on a normal finger. It'd be about the size
That's
of
your
my
fist.
It'd fit around my
It's my
fucking cock.
fist.
I like.
He is wearing my fucking fist on his finger. Like, does he have to wear another one on his other finger to off balance that weight? Like, surely, or maybe he has to just like kind of go with a bit of a slant.
You're balanced by two quantum testicles. At that height, you're just maintained by a personal gyroscope. And mind you, everybody who's listening, this is a brother, damn it. So we
Yes.
can talk about him
Yes,
like
we
this.
can.
It's testicular fortitude. That's the correct term.
Facts, verbiage, words.
Something about quantum locking or something. Yes.
Holy shit.
All right, so I'm gonna
Anyway.
immediately push us to the next aspect of this question. Starting working with the Ancient and Honorable Order of the Turtles, I've discovered what is likely a struggle at some point, and that's free shit's great shit, but free shit ain't free shit. If there is no charter, if there is no money, it has to come from somewhere. And if you're relying on charity and generosity, these are limited means, which if you have not established a system to refill those wells, those storehouses, you can't continuously draw from. So Freemasonry, what would it be today if you removed money entirely? It was entirely free. You couldn't charge. It was just, what would it be today?
Merchandising. Just all the swag, the drip, the chingy. Okay, all of the bling bling. It would be shirts and hats and pins out the wazoo. I mean, we still have that, but it would be solely that.
I was like, oh, okay. So you think it would entirely be bound by kind of the mercantilist system?
Yeah, it'd be like, okay, you're not paying dues or anything. Come to our little merch shop. Here you can
Well,
buy things.
what if it was more the whole like we met in the desert? I mean, I see people. I mean, we could 3D fucking print officers' jewels. You could take a step if you take the traditional form of a lodge. It was originally a tent. We see outdoor degrees done all the time. It's very simplistic. It can be. It can be. You stick Masonic on some shit. Physically, it's now more expensive. Don't ask me why. It's dumb. Like a horseshoe, the same amount of iron. If I pour that bitch into a square and compass, 4 times as expensive. If we took that away, that motivation away, do you think brothers would still meet?
I think they would. Definitely. I mean, brothers would still meet no matter what. It might not be in a form that we identify right now. But I mean, there would be some sort of familiarity if we took away that aspect. But I still feel that brothers would meet. I think, if anything, it would be a trial in itself to weed out, do I dare say it, the lesser Masons, and that's not attributing to any sort of rank, but rather their commitment to the craft and their commitment to the ideals of Freemasonry. Take away all the bedazzle, all the jingles, all the sparkles, and what do you have left? Well, you have what Freemasonry originally set out to be.
Essentially, no more bench warmers.
Yeah, well, it could be. Yes, it could be. I mean, I'm not going to say that we don't have our card holders here in Aotearoa. I could very much point a finger at any, at a couple of men here in the craft and say, you're not in here for the brotherhood or the camaraderie or the enlightenment. You're just in here for the kudos. And I mean, fine, if that suits you in your life, that is fine. But what are you contributing to the craft? Why did you really join? Is it just for the bling bling? And I think by eliminating that, we do weed out those individuals. But as you so rightfully pointed out, there are avenues in which we have relied on for that income of money, such as our philanthropy, which we've done a lot of good. And I feel if we take away those avenue streams, and we rely on our own methods of raising funds. I mean, even, we definitely will decrease the amount of money we get out. But I mean, that might come at the cost of us actually working harder as brothers, with our community. I very much see downsides and upsides on both scenarios. Like, yeah, sweet, okay, we take away the revenue stream. Sorry,
I'll definitely,
Andy.
no. You're completely correct. And I'm going to have to hold you on the fence as long as I'm up here too, because yes, on one hand, we need those. We need those, the little trinkets here and there to keep people interested in Freemasonry, but to use the money in a philanthropic way or in that charity way, we don't have to be Freemasons. Let's be honest. We can just be, Michael, Blair, Michael, and Andrew. Like, we can be ourselves and use whatever means we have possible. In respects to like raising funds, just this past Friday, my lodge had a wine across the world event, which raised about $3,000.
Very nice.
Which of course some of it's going to go to lodge expenses and things like that, because naturally, but a good chunk of that is going to go to our charity fund. And it's going to go into I'm not sure what it is, but it's some kind of market savings fund that is very protected. It's not a fast grower, but it definitely, it's 401k stuff. I don't do that. That's not my thing. But every year we have events like our Scotchtoberfest, which of course, if the three of you ever come to New Jersey at any point during October, yes, come. But we have Oktoberfest. We recently did our Wines Across the World. We do a family game night. All of these events, you don't have to attach the word Freemasonry to, but in order for the craft to survive, you do. And if you're not part of the villains chat, one of the lodges up north just had a Viking feast that was 1000% cosplay, and I wanted to strangle every member of the Grand Lodge that went to it because you are so appropriating crap.
That's an interesting difference in jurisdiction. You said that you had the Wine Across the World event and that some of it was going to lodge, right? See, here in our jurisdiction, anything we do as a fundraiser has to go to charity. We only keep dues money and donations to keep the lights on and run the lodge.
Like, I've tried regular. I'm like, listen, what if we, as a law, what if we did something to raise funds to restore a project or to put it in? Like, nope, fuck, nope, not ever gonna happen. Nope, not ever. Nope. No.
So you guys would literally have to have a pass the hat type thing to raise any types
100%.
of funds
Private
for your
donation.
lodge. That's trying. Like that, I can see that being incredibly difficult, and why lodges fail.
Well, but then so to kind of a similar way that I presume your lodge works, right? When I was a member of Teehee 104, and other members and other lodges out in Colorado, their money is managed differently than we're able to manage our money. And I'll say it that jurisdictions give different, you manage your money differently. And so some lodges are very limited. Some lodges are not. They can run it a little bit more like not a business, but they can have that money managed by more of a business-esque entity that's focused on its growth, less of a lodge, which, let's be honest, most of us are not qualified to run, and that there's now a conflict of interest because we're, so we separate those things and they go elsewhere. Like lodges, when they would have businesses beneath them, there's oftentimes trustees, people who manage that are not the charitable body of the lodge. What I would challenge with this aspect of money is, it's like Brother Bailey had said, he would kind of filter it out. He would make it our forefathers here in the States, and I imagine everywhere, at one point in time had to use the full moon to decide when you went to lodge, and it required you to ride fucking horseback and stay overnight.
We still have one of those lodges.
So, but
a full moon lodge.
But who's willing to ride horseback? Who's willing to do like I rode my bike one time to lodge in Colorado. It was a 14-mile round trip ride, and I was like, this was amazing, but ow, this hurt. And like my bike's name was now Bruce, and I had to take him to dinner. There, it was rough, and I thought about it. I'm like, man, there are fucking brothers who did this shit on horseback, and it was religious, and this was how our cities were built. This is how our communities became what they were. How many brothers will do that today? How much has money made them fucking lazy? Because instead of showing up, they can pay out.
The real question is, did Bruce put out at the end of the date?
I mean, I was limping, so
He didn't put out at the end. He was giving the entire ride. Let's be honest, Blair. Come on now.
charity. It was
Hey,
at the foundation.
Brother
of
Bailey,
something.
welcome to 357 Radio, where we get hot and steamy with hard Masonic trivia.
This is not your daddy's podcast.
Rough Riders. Let's go. Did you get some chafe?
He's looking out the window like, why the hell did I sign up for this?
Welcome, welcome.
Oh no, this is beautiful. This is exactly what I needed. Exactly what I needed. But on the back of what we were saying before, I think if we left it down to lodges having to raise their own funds rather than relying on the subsidies offered by Grand Lodge and through those various avenues. I mean, I look back to my lodge going back 50 years ago, you know, in order to raise funds, the lads were out as a lodge almost, you know, once or twice a week, cutting wood or, you know, scraping lamb shit from underneath sheep sheds to, you know, for fertilizer. And there are memories aplenty. There's friggin' photo albums that literally clog up our library, and they're all memories, and those lads look like they're having the time of their lives. You know, they're out there for the camaraderie, for each other, for their lodge, for their communities, not having to rely on the extra money from Grand Lodge to maybe just boost up their efforts by that little bit. And what they did is what they got. You know, their efforts through those charitable networks is from the sweat of their brow and from the aches of their backs. And I think if we go back to that route, you know, that's not a bad thing in my mind. You know, again, I'm on the fence of it because I do see the benefits and the downsides, but I think going back to those roots, especially in our digital age where we do a lot of our interaction via social media, and again, I can't shit on it because, you know, it does offer unique opportunities, but I think getting back into the community as a lodge, you know, as a unified lodge, busting ass, so to speak, you know, fucking earning those wages the hard way.
Here's a proposition for you, and I'm not sure if how they do it. Hell, even in the other two states here, occasionally locally, the EMTs or even the fire department for my county here will go out, and we call them maniacs because they literally sit in the middle of major highways at a four-way stop and try and collect money from the passing cars. They'll walk out with their, you know, their fire boots or whatever their equipment is and just ask for change here and there. Now, these groups obviously are supported by the government. They're government funded through grants or however. How would you transition that to a lodge perspective? Do you think that Grand Lodge should give out the general payments, so to speak, for a lodge to operate, and then to further that lodge's funds, that lodge, similar to what Brother Bailey was saying, like go out and actually earn the money, you know, literally shoveling shit, or going out and maybe actually building buildings, or, you know, Habitat for Humanity type things or something like that to get your name, your lodge's name out there to increase funds.
You know, it's not intentional for me to do that. I between the double mute of having a remote that can do it and then the blonde hair which can't get the two figured out, it doesn't help me at all.
This could be a very bad meme because there's 3 brunettes and 1 blonde in the room.
I mean, that sounds like my favorite search. So, this is rude. You can't derail a man like that. I was on one avenue of thought and you just bat me to another one. Anyways, The aspects of money and craft and kind of having the space where, so I have to ask this question about Grand Lodge support in general with that per capita, with these large sums of money, which have created massive, beautiful Masonic edifices. They have brought Freemasonry today to be what it is today. But my challenge is Freemasonry, notwithstanding, has survived the last 300 years. King Solomon's Temple didn't. The language which authored our myth hasn't. So I struggle to see that the temples of our craft, I see no right that they should be exempt from the barbarous force and passing of time. I think that money should all be disseminated out. So if you took the sum of every Grand Lodge and you divided it out across every standing lodge that was able to prove its validity and its standing. Right. And I don't mean like you have a charter. I mean, like, no, you've got brothers who show up, you are active, you are working, you are engaged, you're a light bearer, that you would be a cardinal lodge if you took all the money in Grand Lodge and you disseminated it back out and you made that Grand Lodge an extension of those active brothers, those active bodies. Like, no, the Grand Lodge met at a tavern. They met at one small standing lodge or one of the regional. It doesn't have to be this giant separate fucking thing. Like, why can't you meet at any one of the small lodges? Why does it have to be these? There's so many of us. Bullshit. Then do an outdoor degree. Go outside. Rent out a bar. Take advantage of something in the community. But no, there has to be some illustrious separation of where we are at as the grand being different. So if you as a little lodge can't call on these resources as a grand lodge, then you should have, because in our lodge, I'm not saying you can't. I can say example like in Oklahoma. If you as a lodge are struggling to keep up with your building, you need to repair the ceiling. That's your fucking problem. You cannot dial up Grand Lodge and be like, we need help. If they're gonna be like, I understand. Have you thought about charity? Have you asked for help? Have you done? It's the same basic things where that's your problem. But the amount of money that the Grand Lodge requires every year from lodges is how they exist with the standing they do. I feel like every lodge should have access to that. Now, this is my opinion. Controversial. I get faces sometimes.
Well, without the big buildings, how would we know whose working tools were bigger, if you know what I mean?
Oh my God, if you actually had to use an apron to identify a brother, if you had to grab their fucking hand and reach for that grip or check their angles or measure, oh my heavens, people would have to do work. I would take a
Ooh, work.
75x per, like, let's reduce us down to a tenth of what we are today. I'll still take that shit. If I had to drive, if I got to meet quarterly, if it meant that every meeting in every space, we got to have the engagement that inspired everybody to spend the fucking 3 months you didn't get to meet or the 2 months you didn't get to meet, to put that effort in to make that meeting that they had together count, I would take it in a heartbeat. Bring on the trial, bring on the destruction.
I'd second that actually. I would take a quarterly meeting of genuine enlightenment and education and, fucking just camaraderie over the monthly monotonous bullshit meetings that absolutely go nowhere. You're repeating the same old stories. You're going over the same old agenda. Give me that any day, bro. Give me that quarterly of just passion and, well, not passion, but, education and just me looking forward to that next quarterly meeting. I would quite gladly not go to lodge for 2 months if it meant that third month I was just going to absolutely enjoy myself, so much so that I was looking forward to lodge on the drive and wanting to go back on the way back home. Give me that
as much as we discussed how much we love our lodge buildings, I would say, why don't we rent out storefronts or some smaller structure rather than have these dedicated buildings, or do something like New York does, where it's a dedicated building, it's Grand Lodge, and there's 30 other rooms in it that are all dedicated to different lodges, and that everyone goes there. And like you guys said, I have bi-monthly meetings, and then every other Tuesday we meet for rehearsals and whatnot. I would very much do either monthly or quarterly meetings, and maybe a dispensation for a degree here and there, obviously, but to have that passion of looking forward to, oh man, we're going to have a visit from illustrious brother De Hoya, on the second meeting of the year. That's going to be freaking amazing compared to, I got to go to lodge again next week. And I'll be honest, I this year alone, the first 3 months of this year, I think I've been to lodge twice. And that's not hating on the new worshipful master. That's not hating on the new line. All of those guys are doing an amazing job. They really are. And I give them props. They're really kicking ass this year. It's just, I just haven't found the motivation.
Well, so like I struggle sometimes when the amount, so every month, our lodge only meets once a month, but every month I have that. I leave and I'm like, God damn it, I hate that this is over and I have to wait 30 days for the next meeting. I struggle. I'm our lodge's education officer, so it's my responsibility to do the talking. Certainly self-appointed in a lot of cases. I take a lot of passion and joy. But then an example would be at our last stated, we had like 7 people there, minus the 5 officers. We had 2. That's 2 people. A month of edging myself off, trying to get to this Masonic fucking moment where I get to impart light or talk or have these meaningful discussions and fellowship which is the raison d'etre of why I'm a Freemason, why I'm here. And there's 7 people and 5 of them are so exhausted because they have continuously only been the 5, and 2 of them were only there to pay it breaks my heart. You feel that fire die and you're like, oh. And then I found the turtles and I'm like, oh, wonderful. It's amazing because I found another avenue.
Bloop, bloop.
Bloop, bloop, motherfucker.
I think there's a Cowan turtle amongst us. I don't know if he understands.
I think we may have to find him, submerge him rapidly.
We could make him understand. Real quick.
I'll tell you guys right now that I have a crippling fear of deep water, so I will be a shallow water turtle if such a thing exists.
He says,
Only
confident that
we have freshwater ponds. Don't worry. You don't have to be a sea turtle. You can absolutely.
Only if they're waist high.
I love it. Only thing deep about ours is the conversation, baby. You'd be perfect. Well, brothers, let's pass the torch to our lovely guest. How would you like to send off and bring our podcast to a conclusion tonight?
Harira, enjoy the fraternal bonds that you will establish in your career. Always keep yourself open to ideals, especially if you do not understand them. Don't fear what you don't understand. It just means that you need to search for that light a little bit harder. Never allow your passions and prejudice to steer you in this life. And always be a brother that is willing to correct another, even if it comes at the detriment of your relationship. If a brother cannot take criticism, or if they cannot be steered in a direction befitting of the craft without taking it in good standing, then they have a lot to learn. Brothers, it's always been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. What a giggle. And I look forward to any future invitations you may send my way if I'm that lucky. Brethren, until next time.
Kia ora. Take care, brother. Thank you so much for joining us.
Kia ora.
Give me about a year, I'll have a whole album.
Oh my God, dude,
Whole
I
album.
was the Manturan Pond rap. I sat back and it's so detailed. I love it. Like I sit there and I'm like, this needs to be viral.
I will try.
It
Get the beats and I will I will put it on the platforms.
Beats by Chris, something like that.
Something that is
So-
royalty free.
If you want beats made, not only is he a coworker, but he's also a brother from a local lodge who makes beats. He goes by Nooch here in New Jersey.
Nooch.
Beats by Nooch.
Beats by Nooch.
This is the best, especially as a vegan nutritional yeast is what we call Nooch. So I just found
Oh,
like
now I'm just
Beats.
gonna call him yeast.
yeast.
The Yeasty Boys.
That shit. That shit. See it recorded, captured.
that is trademarked.
That's why
now.
we have this is
Yeasty
proof.
The Yeasty
Boys.
Boys.
Yeasty Boys. Oh my god, this is it's the
But that's only like 2 out of the 3 in this picture right now because you're thin as fuck. So only Blair and I can be the yeasty boys with these magnificent stomachs that
Yes.
we have.
listen,
The-
I'm the
the-
tin pan holding you bitches up. Don't even act like you don't need it.